Now let's go from Cartesian form to polar form. Now, whereas in the previous examples I said you don't really need a diagram, it can help if that's what you want to rely on. I personally always draw a diagram and very rarely rely on formulas. The key for these ones though is you have to remember what quadrant you're in, and we'll work out what quadrant you're in, because using the formula theta will always be the reference angle in that first quadrant. So sometimes a quick diagram can help. It may just don't take shortcuts would be my recommendation. So in the first one we have negative 4 root 3I plus 4j. Now the key here is our x coordinate is negative. Our y coordinate is positive, so that's telling us we're in our second quadrant. That's also telling us that we're going to have to go 180 minus theta. Okay, if you had drawn a diagram, you would have realized that as well, because when you draw your diagram, because your x is negative, you're over here. So this is 4 and this is 4 root 3. There's your right angle, there's your theta. So you actually want that angle there when you're putting it in polar form. Okay, so I'll refer to both. When we're working at our angle, if you remember the formula, tan theta is y over x. If you don't remember the formula, go to your diagram, opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, and you know that tan theta is O over A. Okay, remembering you're working out the angle here. So whichever option you use, so you've got tan theta is equal to 4 over 4 root 3, which is 1 on root 3. So theta is inverse tan of 1 on root 3, and we get 30 degrees. Now this is where you have to remember that you're in your second quadrant, so you actually want 180 minus 30, which is 150 degrees. Magnitude r equals the square root of x squared plus y squared. Again, if you use your diagram, you just go to Pythag. So that's equal to the square root of 4 root 3 all squared plus 4 squared. That's the square root of 48 plus 16, square root of 64, which is 8. Now sideline, 4 root 3 squared. It's been a while since you did surds. That's 4 root 3 times 4 root 3. So 4 times 4 is 16. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. So that's where that's coming from. So our vector u is equal to, magnitude is 8, and my angle is 150 degrees. Next one, we have negative 4i and negative 4j. So x is negative, y is negative, so that means we're in our third quadrant. So when we do our angle, it's going to be 180 plus theta. Again, you can draw a little diagram, realizing that your angle is down here because you have negative 4, negative 4. Okay, labeling, opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. Do what works for you. Angle tan theta equals y over x. Tan theta is 4 over 4, which is 1. So theta is inverse tan of 1, which is 45 degrees. We're in our third quadrant, so it's going to equal 180 plus 45, which is 225 degrees. Okay, remembering that you're doing that angle all the way around. Magnitude r equals the square root of x squared plus y squared, which is the square root of 4 squared plus 4 squared, which is the square root of 32, which is the square root of 16 times the square root of 2, which is 4 root 2. So my polar form is equal to 4 root 2, 225 degrees. Now note we could go the negative angle for this. So when we look at what we've got, this is 45 degrees. Our negative angle would be 180 minus 45 degrees, which is 135 degrees. So we could write our polar form as 4 root 2 negative 135 degrees. Now make sure you can convert from polar to Cartesian, Cartesian to polar using your calculators. I've left instructions. Go through it. The one thing to take note of with the instructions, number one, these are square brackets and there needs to be a comma. Okay, you need a comma between the two numbers, so make sure you do that. So just check on your calculator that you can convert 3 negative 5 into polar form and get the right answer. Also go from polar to Cartesian, which is called rectangular form. In regards to this one, the angle symbol can be found in the book on the right across from your 9. So when you're doing the exercises, it'd be a really good habit to check your answers using your calculators. You need to practice how to use your graphics calculators, converting from polar to Cartesian and Cartesian to polar. So checking your answers is a good way to get that into your memory.